My name is Sarah Mitchell, and 10 years ago, I walked away from my family's $100 million tech empire, not because I was weak, but because I refused to be invisible any longer. I still remember that day perfectly, the gleaming floor-to-ceiling windows of Mitchell Technologies headquarters, the rush of employees in designer suits, and my brother Marcus standing at the podium, presenting my work as his own. "The Mitchell Secure Platform is revolutionary," he announced to the packed conference room, his voice carrying the practiced confidence of someone who had everything handed to him. "I've spent months developing this security architecture." I sat in the back row, my hands trembling as I watched him take credit for the countless nights I'd spent coding, debugging, and perfecting the system. The same system he had dismissed as just another firewall 6 months ago. Growing up in the Mitchell family meant understanding your place. For Marcus, the eldest son, it meant being groomed for leadership from birth. For me, despite my computer science degree from MIT and years of practical experience, it meant being the assistant, the shadow worker who made things happen but never got the credit. Our father, Richard Mitchell, built Mitchell Technologies from nothing. He started coding in his garage in the 80s, eventually growing the company into one of the largest cybersecurity firms in the country. Hard work is everything, he always said. But what he really meant was that hard work was everything, for everyone except Marcus. I joined the company straight out of college, eager to prove myself, while Marcus spent his days in strategic meetings, which usually meant long lunches with potential clients. I was in the trenches, leading development teams, solving critical issues, and pushing our technology forward. The Mitchell Secure Platform was my masterpiece. I had noticed a fundamental flaw in how most security systems handled encrypted data transfer. Late one night, after everyone else had left the office, I sketched out a new architecture that would revolutionize how we protected sensitive information. For 6 months, I worked tirelessly. My team and I built prototypes, ran thousands of tests, and refined the system until it was perfect. Marcus, as head of product development, had barely glanced at our progress reports. Then 2 weeks ago, everything changed. A major government contract was up for grabs, one that could double our company's value overnight. Suddenly, Marcus was interested. He started showing up at our team meetings, asking questions, taking notes. I should have seen it coming. Standing at that podium, Marcus didn't just steal my work. He erased me completely. As he went through the technical specifications, using terms I knew he barely understood, I felt something inside me break. The worst part wasn't Marcus taking credit. It was watching my father beam with pride from the front row, completely unaware, or perhaps uncaring, that his son was presenting his daughter's work as his own. When the presentation ended, the room erupted in applause. Investors rushed to shake Marcus's hand. Our father clapped him on the back, announcing, "That's my boy. The future of Mitchell Technologies." I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. The sound drew Marcus's attention, and for a moment, our eyes met. There was no shame in his gaze, no recognition of what he'd done. Just mild annoyance at my disruption. I walked out of the conference room, straight to my office. My hands were steady as I began packing my personal items into a box. Family photos, certificates, awards I'd won but never been allowed to display prominently. All of it went in. Marcus found me there 20 minutes later. "What do you think you're doing?" he demanded, closing the door behind him. I continued packing. "What does it look like?" "Don't be dramatic, Sarah. You know how these things work. The company needs a strong leader to present." "A strong leader?" I turned to face him. "You couldn't explain the first thing about how that system works. You stole my work, Marcus. My work." His face hardened. "I'm the head of product development. Everything developed here belongs to me. You're just an assistant, Sarah. Know your place." Those words, "know your place," they'd been thrown at me my entire life. Every time I excelled, every time I threatened to outshine Marcus, I was reminded to know my place. "You're right," I said quietly. "I do know my place, and it's not here." I picked up my box and walked past him. He grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. "Where do you think you'll go? You're nothing without this company, without the Mitchell name." I yanked my arm free. "Watch me." The elevator ride down to the lobby felt like descending into another world. Employees stared as I walked out, box in hand. Nobody tried to stop me. I was just another assistant leaving, hardly worth noting in their eyes. My father called that evening, his voice gruff with anger. "This tantrum stops now," he said. "Come back to work tomorrow and we'll forget this happened." "Did you even watch the presentation?" I asked. "Did you notice that your son didn't understand half the terms he was using? Marcus has his strengths. He's a natural leader. You need to stop competing with him and accept your role." I laughed, a hollow sound. My role? I wrote every line of code in that system. I led the team. Enough, he cut me off. "You want to leave? Fine, but don't come crawling back when you fail." I ended the call and blocked his number. Then I blocked Marcus, my mother, and every other Mitchell contact in my phone. 10 years of being invisible was enough. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment feeling lighter than I had in years. I had some savings, my skills, and most importantly, something my family had never truly understood, a vision. While Marcus had been taking credit for my work, I had been quietly documenting everything. Every line of code, every design decision, every improvement. I had copies of all my original work stored securely where neither Marcus nor Mitchell Technologies could touch them. I knew the company would soon announce the Mitchell Secure Platform to the world. Marcus would be hailed as a technological genius. Mitchell Technologies' stock would soar. But I had something they didn't know about, something that would take years to develop but would make the Mitchell Secure Platform look like a child's toy in comparison. As I sat at my kitchen table that morning, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise over the city, I made myself a promise. The next time I saw Marcus and my father, I wouldn't be invisible. I would be impossible to ignore. I opened my laptop and began to write the first lines of code for what would become my revenge, not a bitter attack, but a testament to what happens when you underestimate the assistant in the room. Little did they know, 10 years later, they would be the ones desperately needing my signature. But that part of the story was still to come. 10 years can change everything. I stood at the window of my penthouse office, watching the sun rise over the Seattle skyline. The view was a far cry from my tiny apartment kitchen where I'd started this journey a decade ago. Below me, the streets were already filling with morning traffic, including several cars heading toward Mitchell Technologies headquarters. The building I could see from my window. "Ms. Walker, they're here." My assistant Michael's voice broke through my thoughts. I had taken my mother's maiden name after leaving Mitchell Technologies, wanting to succeed or fail on my own merits. "How many?" "3, your father, your brother Marcus, and their chief legal counsel." I nodded, smoothing down my tailored suit. "Let them wait for 20 minutes, then bring them up." Michael smiled slightly, understanding the power play. "Yes, Ms. Walker." As he left, I thought about the path that had led to this moment. After walking away from Mitchell Technologies, I had spent 6 months living off my savings while developing the foundation for what would become Quantum Shield, a security system that made the Mitchell Secure Platform look like a high school coding project. But I knew better than to rush. I'd watched my father build his empire, seen his mistakes and his successes. Instead of immediately launching my own company, I spent 2 years working as a security consultant for major tech firms, building connections and studying the industry from the inside. Every night, I worked on Quantum Shield, while Marcus was appearing in tech magazines as the genius behind Mitchell Secure. I was quietly revolutionizing how digital security worked. My system didn't just protect data, it adapted, learned, and evolved to meet new threats. When I finally launched Walker Security Solutions 3 years after leaving Mitchell Technologies, I did it through a series of shell companies. No one knew I was the founder and CEO. The press called me reclusive, mysterious. In reality, I was just patient. The company grew rapidly. Our security solutions were generations ahead of competitors. Major tech companies, governments, and financial institutions became our clients. Meanwhile, Mitchell Technologies started losing market share. The Mitchell Secure Platform, once revolutionary, was showing its age. I kept tabs on my family through industry news. Marcus was now executive vice president, still taking credit for other people's work. My father had stepped down as CEO but remained chairman of the board. Their company was still successful, but innovations had slowed. They were living off past glories. Then, 6 months ago, everything changed. A massive data breach hit one of Mitchell Technologies' biggest clients. Their platform, the one Marcus had claimed to create, failed catastrophically. Billions in sensitive data were exposed. The company's stock plummeted. Now they were here, in my building, though they didn't know it was mine. They thought they were meeting with the mysterious CEO of Walker Security Solutions, hoping to negotiate a partnership that might save their company. Ms. Walker, Michael's voice came through the intercom. They're ready. I took one last look at my reflection in the window. Send them in. The door opened and I heard them enter. I kept my back turned, letting them take in the office, the view, the subtle displays of power and success. Thank you for meeting with us, Ms. Walker. My father's voice, older but still carrying that note of authority. Though I must say, 20 minutes is a long time to keep people waiting. I turned slowly. The shock on their faces was everything I had imagined and more. Marcus recovered first. Sarah, what is this? What are you doing here? Hello, Marcus, father. I moved to my desk, enjoying how they remained frozen in place. Please sit down. I believe you wanted to discuss a potential partnership. My father's face had gone pale. You're Walker? Sarah Walker, yes, founder and CEO of Walker Security Solutions. I sat down, gesturing to the chairs across from my desk. Though you might be more familiar with our latest product, Quantum Shield, it's been making quite a splash in the industry. Marcus's face had turned an interesting shade of red. This is impossible. You were just an assistant. Was I? I opened a folder on my desk. Let's talk about why you're really here. Mitchell Technologies is in trouble. Your security platform fails spectacularly. You're losing clients daily. Your stock has dropped 60% in the last month. Now see here, my father started, some of his old fire returning. We're here to discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement. No, I cut him off. You're here because every other major security firm has turned you down. You need our technology to survive, and you know it. I pulled out a document and slid it across the desk. This is our offer. Walker Security Solutions will acquire Mitchell Technologies for 40% of its current market value. All existing employees will be retained except for upper management. Marcus shocked to his feet. This is absurd. You can't honestly think we'd sell to you. Your board has already approved the deal. I watched his face crumple as the truth hit him. They voted this morning. All that's needed is the family signatures, which, as you know, is required by the company charter. My father picked up the document with trembling hands. You've been planning this all along. 10 years, I confirmed. Ever since the day Marcus stood at that podium and took credit for my work. The day you both reminded me to know my place. We can fight this, Marcus threatened. We have resources. Do you? I pulled up a display showing Mitchell Technologies' financial status. Your company is bleeding money. Major clients are jumping ship. Without this deal, you'll be bankrupt within 3 months. I stood up, walking to the window. But this isn't about revenge. Walker Security Solutions can use Mitchell Technologies' distribution network and client base. Your employees get to keep their jobs. The company survives just under new leadership. And what about us? My father asked quietly. You'll receive fair compensation for your shares. Marcus can keep his executive title at one of our subsidiary companies, one where he won't be able to take credit for other people's work. Marcus slumped in his chair, defeated. My father stared at the contract for a long moment before looking up at me. When did you become this powerful? I always was, I replied. You just never noticed. The signing took less than 10 minutes. As they stood to leave, Marcus paused at the door. Sarah, I'm sorry. For what I did. No, you're not. I said calmly. You're sorry it caught up with you. There's a difference. After they left, I stayed at my window, watching as they emerged from the building below. They looked small from up here, two figures dwarfed by the towers of steel and glass that rose around them. Michael came in with a cup of coffee. Congratulations, Ms. Walker. The board just confirmed the acquisition. Thank you, Michael. I took the coffee, smiling. Schedule a company-wide meeting for tomorrow morning. It's time to introduce Walker Security Solutions to its newest employees, even the ones who knew you as an assistant. Especially them. I sat back down at my desk, opening my laptop. It's important to remember that every assistant might just be a CEO in waiting. The sun had fully risen now, casting long shadows across the city. In one of those shadows, Mitchell Technologies' building stood as a reminder of where I'd started. By next week, the sign would change to Walker Security Solutions. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something so magnificent that they're forced to acknowledge what they overlooked. My father and Marcus had taught me to know my place. They just never expected that place would be at the very top. As I began preparing for tomorrow's meeting, I couldn't help but smile. The assistant they had told to know her place now owned their company. And the best part? I did it not through inheritance or family connections, but through my own hard work and vision. Exactly the way my father had always claimed success should be achieved. The irony wasn't lost on me. Tomorrow, I would walk into Mitchell Technologies not as an invisible assistant, but as the CEO who saved the company from bankruptcy. The employees would learn that their new leader was the same person they had barely noticed for years. It wasn't about humiliation or revenge. It was about justice, about proving that talent and dedication matter more than family names or corporate titles. And maybe, just maybe, some other overlooked assistant would see my story and realize that being underestimated could be the greatest advantage of all. After all, no one watches their step when they think you're invisible. And sometimes, the person they refuse to see becomes the person they can't ignore.